1 in 4 of us will experience mental health at some point during our lifetime.
Despite the proximity, only 1 in 8 people with mental health receive treatment.
Many feel isolated, ashamed, and unable to reach out.
And with the recent global pandemic, treatment and support is delayed, with services overwhelmed with a significant increase in those experiencing mental health.
It is more important than ever that we educate ourselves and others in this fight against mental health.
It's time to talk.
This year's Mental Health Awareness Week focuses on combating loneliness.
Experiencing mental health can be a very lonely place to be. It can happen to anyone at any time. It doesn't discriminate.
Remember, it's okay not to be okay.
And you are not alone.
We have united to share our stories and experiences and to raise awareness about a subject close to all of our hearts.
Together, everyone achieves more.
Talk me through the beginning of your experience with mental health.
I was bullied at secondary school and was suicidal at 14.
The journey for me happened quite a long time ago. I think when my mum passed away when I was about 12.
It started 8 years ago. After giving birth to my second son, I was diagnosed with facial palsy.
Probably around 15 years ago, he was diagnosed with depression.
If I could pinpoint it to an age, I'd probably say around the age of 12, was when I first started experiencing mental health, but obviously at the time I didn't understand what mental health was or what it meant. And I went into the appointment with the doctor, and the doctor just said to me, you have 2 choices. You either take medication or you attend counselling. So I was diagnosed with depression at 17, but then at 20 I was diagnosed with anxiety, and out of the 2, anxiety has always been the worst.
And I think it got to pretty much a period where I then become a dad and realised what that was like to be a parent. And then a few years ago, unfortunately, I sort of lost my way a little bit and lost everything around me, job, house, and I had to restart again. But I had a bit of a period for nearly a year where I just really had no care for myself or care for people that actually loved me, and that's quite a scary thing.
As a 14-year-old, I just wanted the bullying to stop and the pain to stop, and I felt the only way I could do that was taking my own life. I've had people tell me I was depressed back in 2016, and last year I just didn't want to be here. I was married in a good job and was made redundant. My marriage broke down. I ended up with nothing. And last year I wondered if my 2 girls were better off without me.
It gets in my head that I'm letting people down. And then COVID hit. And my mum was my nan's carer. So at the beginning of COVID, when one person got ill, that affected the whole household. I knew that if I got ill, no one else could leave the house, which means my nan wouldn't have anyone to look after her. And she had dementia, so it was mainly my worry about her. And then I did end up getting COVID during Christmas. And I came out of, we had to isolate for Christmas Day, which then meant my nan was alone. And then she passed away a few days afterwards. And that's always been my feeling, that it was my fault that we didn't get to spend last Christmas with her because it was me who got ill.
It was a massive life-changing event for me. It was something I knew nothing about. I never knew the extremities of how it was going to affect my life going forward, and I was very naive when I was diagnosed with it. It basically has left me with an asymmetrical face. When I first experienced my diagnosis 8 years ago, I became anxious. I became self-conscious and my emotions spiralled into what I would say was anxiety and depression. I didn't see myself as I was in the mirror. I was no longer that person. I was no longer that Becky. So it was grieving for something that I once had, but now had to learn with something that was new. So I was living with a new face.
And at the time I didn't truly understand what it was, and I was a police officer at the time and I was on a training course and we were learning about mental health, and funnily enough depression came up as a condition that falls under mental health, and I didn't believe it. Went away and learnt a little bit more about it, started to understand what depression was. Sadly, it then became apparent that the depression was actually a symptom of his complex PTSD. We knew he had PTSD probably about 5 years after that, and we only found out he had complex PTSD within the last 2 years due to a dissociative identity disorder that came out during a mental breakdown. My earliest memory now of anxiety is probably about 2-3 years old, and it's through therapy that's helped me get that, but of course I've only known that recently. When you have that as a child, you're more drawn towards people who have had similar experiences for whatever reason. So that's probably what brought us both together, although at the time we were very young and we didn't know that. We do, interestingly enough, I know it's been spoken about, although we've both got similar diagnoses, we've both got very different symptoms. So my anxiety can be very prominent, whereas his dissociation identity disorder, which means he's got multiple personalities. When he's very sick, that comes out. So I've seen him switch in front of me, which for me is actually really quite frightening.
What support did you have and how did it help you?
In regards to support, I actually went and saw a counsellor for nearly 18 months. It massively helped me. It gave me coping mechanisms. It gave me the ability to rationalise things and the coping mechanisms to be able to accept the new me and to deal with my anxiety when I felt I was getting anxious, and if I felt I was getting depressed.
I had my counselling session once a week and that lady saved my life. She said to me, think about things that make you feel happy, what gives you that little feeling every now and then. And I started to make a list of the things that I enjoyed, and she said to me, do more of what makes you happy. And that mantra has stuck with me ever since she said it to me. That is what I do now. I make a list of things that I enjoy and I make sure that I do them, and little by little it built up to the point where I did actually feel happiness. I know for the last 3-4 months I keep saying that I feel really weird, and I couldn't explain why I felt weird, and I realised that the weird feeling is actually me being content, me feeling happy and me being in control of my mental health, which is the first time in 10 years I've ever actually been in control of it.
We started off on doing some counselling first, as I was the age where they didn't want to put me on tablets or anything like that. They were just like, let's start off with some counselling, see how that goes. I did that for a bit, and don't get me wrong, it did help, but it just didn't feel like it was enough at times. There were still moments where it just felt too much for me. It has helped me. Looking in hindsight, it has helped me. During the moment, it was really hard. And I do feel like I'm on the better side of it now. Not that there is really a better side, but the more positive side, where I can look back on it and be like, okay, well, I can see how this has actually helped me now, and it has, maybe subconsciously, it got me to do other things as well, and just go out there and be more in the world, rather than shutting myself off in my room.
Lucky for me, I've always had a great friend community within the football local area, and everyone sort of reached out and wanted to give me a hand and take me out of the dark hole and show me a bit of light and show me that actually I could achieve some things still, that I was still, I could still have a life.
If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say to them?
If I was to talk to my younger self, I would just be giving the advice that You know, you will overcome hurdles, you will defeat challenges, and you will come across things that are hard in life, but you are strong, you will get there, and these hurdles only make you stronger and make you the person you are today.
Ask for support if you ever feel like you need to, and I think that's the most important thing, to know that there is people out there that you can talk to.
That it's okay, you know, don't ever be ashamed if you are struggling.
So it's important to recognise the small wins and just take each day.
But it will get better, and I can promise you it does.
Why are you sharing your story today?
I think it's important because people are probably there right now in a dark room, sitting on their own, not sort of realising that there is some things you can do. There are some people out there that can help. You know, some people probably do feel that this is it for them, and I can sort of say when you've been to rock bottom like I feel like I have been, and I just want people to realise that actually there is a way out, there is an option for you.
I think mental health is a massive overseen illness. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that people don't have it. Awareness needs to be raised of it, and I've felt for years I was hiding the fact that I had mental health and I had anxiety and depression. However, now I feel that it needs to be voiced and it needs to be told that it's okay not to be okay, and if you know you do feel anxious and you do feel depressed, it is okay to feel like that.
It's quite a long time ago when I first started to learn about mental health, but I had absolutely no idea, and there's an awful lot of people out there who still do not have any idea. The more we speak about it, the more people are going to start to understand what's going on. There's an awful lot of people out there who are thinking they're on their own, and mental illness does that to you, it isolates you.
It's not talked about enough. So my story, a lot has happened to me, but one of the things that has happened to me is I was sexually assaulted, which I don't see much of men speaking out about that, and it's something that I think about so much and it gets quite hard. And I feel like it's not talked about enough from a male perspective, because it does happen for males as well. They do have that experience.
So people don't do this. I do want to like build confidence around talking and stuff, and it is a big thing. Like, it's a worldwide thing, which it is hard to talk about it, and it's just a big, like when you say mental health, it's not one thing, it's a whole range of different things, but people should talk about it.
I would like to thank everyone involved with sharing their stories for this campaign alongside myself. Our Stories and Our Words has been created in line with Mental Health Awareness Week 2022 and to fundraise for Mind charity.
Ups and downs all the time. It's how you go through.
Yeah.